Examination of sensory system and reflexes. For the examination of sensory system and reflexes, assess the pain, temperature, light, touch and vibratory sensations, position, sense and discriminative sensation, elicit the deep tendon reflexes of biceps, triceps, brachioradialis, knee and ankle. To evaluate the sensory system, we test several kinds of sensations. Pain and temperature involving spinothalamic tract, position and vibration involving posterior columns, light touch involving both of these pathways, and discriminative sensations. Sanitize the hands properly. Before testing, show the patient what you plan to do and explain how you would like the patient to respond. The patient's eyes should be closed during the actual testing. Use the stick portion of the broken cotton swab. Occasionally, substitute the blunt end for the point. Ask the patient to feel if the sensations are sharp or dull, or to make comparison by asking, does this feel the same as this? Apply the lightest pressure needed for the stimulus to feel the sharp pain. Avoid heavy pricks that draws the blood. Testing the skin temperature is often omitted if the pain sensation is normal. If there are sensory deficits, use two test tubes filled with hot and cold water or a tuning fork heated or cooled by running water, as I am using here. Touch the skin and ask the patient to identify hot or cold. With a fine wisp of cotton, touch the skin lightly, avoiding pressure. Ask the patient to respond whenever a touch is felt and to compare one area with another. Avoid testing the calloused skin, which is normally insensitive. If there is an absence of touch sensation, consider anesthesia. If there is a decreased sensitivity to touch, hypaesthesia, and if there is increased sensitivity to touch, consider hyperesthesia. Use a relatively low-pitched tuning fork of 128 Hz. Tap the tuning fork on your hand and place it firmly over the distal interphalangeal joint of the patient's finger. Ask the patient to tell you when the vibration stops. Then take the tuning fork closer to the trunk to see if it is perceived. If the vibration sensations are impaired, proceed to more proximal bony prominences. This is useful while identifying cord lesions. Grasp the patient's big toe, holding it by its side between your thumb and index finger. Then pull it away from the other toe. Demonstrate up and down as you move the patient's toe clearly upward and downward. Then, with the patient's eye closed, ask the patient to say up or down when moving the large toe in a small arc. Repeat the test several times on each side. If the position sense is impaired, move proximally to test the ankle joint. In a similar fashion, test position in the fingers, moving proximally, if indicated, to the metacarpophalangeal joints, wrist and elbow. Because discriminative sensations depend on the touch and position sense, they are useful only when these sensations are either intact or slightly impaired. Stereognosis refers to the ability to identify an object by feeling it. Place a familiar object such as a coin, paper clip, key, pencil, or a cotton ball in the patient's hand and ask the patient to tell you what it is. Normally, a patient will manipulate it skillfully and identify it correctly within 5 seconds. Graphesthesia refers to the ability to identify numbers. With the blunt end of a pen or a pencil, draw a large number in the patient's palm. A normally abled person can identify most numbers. Using the two ends of an opened paper clip or two pins, touch a finger pad in two places simultaneously. Ask the patient to identify whether the pin touches with 1 or 2 points. Alternate the double stimulus irregularly with 1 point touch. Be careful not to cause pain. Find a minimal distance at which the patient can discriminate 1 from 2 points. Normally, it is less than 5 mm on the finger pads. This test may be used on other parts of the body, but the normal distances can vary from one body region to another. Briefly touch a point on the patient's skin. Then ask the patient to open both eye and point to the place touched. Normally, a person can do so accurately. This is point localization. For extension, stimulate one side or simultaneously stimulate corresponding areas on both sides of the body. Ask the patient to feel your touch. Normally, both stimuli are felt. While examining, note the speed, force and amplitude of the reflex response and grade the response using the scale. The patient's elbow should be partially flexed and the forearm pronated with palm down. Place your thumb or finger firmly on the biceps tendon. Aim the strike with the reflex hammer directly through your digit towards the biceps tendon. Observe the flexion at the elbow and watch for and feel the contraction of the biceps muscle. Flex the patient's arm at the elbow with palm towards the body and pull it slightly across the chest. Strike the triceps tendon with a direct blow directly behind and just above the elbow. Watch for the contraction of the triceps muscle and extension at the elbow. The patient's hand should rest on the abdomen or the lap with the forearm partly pronated. Strike the radius with the point or the flat edge of the reflex hammer about 1 to 2 inches above the wrist. Watch for the flexion and supination of the forearm. Briskly tap the patellar tendon just below the patella. Note the contraction of the quadriceps with extension at the knee. Placing your hand on the patient's anterior thigh lets you feel this reflex. If the patient is sitting, partially dorsiflex the foot at the ankle. Persuade the patient to relax. Strike the Achilles tendon and watch and feel for plantar flexion at the ankle. Also note the speed of relaxation after muscular contraction. You can also perform this reflex by flexing one leg at both the hip and knee and rotate it externally so that the lower leg rests across the opposite shin. Then dorsiflex the foot at the ankle and strike the Achilles tendon. If the reflexes seem hyperactive, test for the ankle clonus. Support the knee in a partly flexed position. With your other hand, dorsiflex and plantar flex the foot a few times while encouraging the patient to relax. Then sharply dorsiflex the foot and maintain it in dorsiflexion. Look and feel for the rhythmic oscillations between dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. Normally, the ankle does not react to this stimulus. Stroke the lateral aspect of the sole from the heel to the ball of the foot, curving medially across the ball. Use the lightest stimulus needed to provoke a response, but increase firmness if necessary. Closely observe movement of the big toe, normally the plantar flexion. Dorsiflexion of the big toe indicates positive Babinski response.